Hi everyone, welcome back to the podcast inside Fnatic's Brush. I am Matt Scott, your host as always. Thank you for joining me again today after the week-long break that we've had during last week actually, and week 4 LEC that we're going to recap, which was a spicy weekend, let's say. A very surprising one where I'm just seeing that my title is completely. There we go. Much better. What was I saying again? Yes, surprising results over the weekend. We're going to go over all of this. Over Fnatic's uninspiring games. We'll call them like that for now. And as usual, our week 5 predictions that we do with the community through Twitter, guys. If you want to participate, it's down at this way at IFB Podcast. Have you seen the news about LEC getting the 4th seed at Worlds? I have, yes, and that's good news. Let me just put the music down. Yes. So for those who haven't seen, now we have a 4th seed that will be set into playoffs. So our 3rd and 4th seed will be doing not playoffs, the play-ins. I think it's a good step that Riot is taking, for sure. I haven't checked how this impacts other seeds, but I'm thinking this might be because of, is it Vietnam's that had struggle traveling, couldn't participate at MSI or something like this, and at Worlds last time. So that's maybe what they're doing. I'm not too sure, but yeah, it's good news. Maybe for Fnatic it gives them a bit more of a safety net, especially following this weekend. Just kidding, but it'll be interesting to see who's the 4th team we send. Really, if potentially it helps G2, who's struggling even harder than us when you think about it in the end. But yeah, let's actually talk about it straight away on our LEC topics, as we usually go from our positive teams and our negative teams, our, I don't know, the hot and not, we'll call them like that. I've never found actually a name of how to describe those segments, but let's call them like this, hot and not. Current ranking is actually quite interesting. We have 4 teams currently at 3rd, but within those 4 teams, they make basically the last stack for playoffs. So it's, I'd say, interesting to see that would this be our playoffs team, we would have G2 in the bundle right there, who's struggling down at 7th. But after what happened this weekend, it's completely thrown everything out. It's drawn the cards again, and it feels like anyone has a chance to make it into playoffs now. Because if you look at the scores, I don't know if this shows properly on your screen. If you're on mobile phone, on your smartphone, it's probably too small, and I apologize, but it's hard to fit the full standings properly. But between the joint 3rd and 7th, there's only 1 win separating them, and same between 2nd and 3rd. So it's just a big bundle of teams that are just 1 win away from going up or down in the standings. And I think what's most impressive right now is actually Rogue, who I believe are on a 6-game win streak right now. Because everyone was like, "Oh, Rogue is done after the Super Week. They went 1-2." Uh, Rogue are just the kings of best of ones. What can I tell you? It's just what they do, and they've shown it again. And I feel even more this weekend, where I felt they were super dominant. Like some of the wins they've had previously weren't necessarily the cleanest. There's a lot of back and forth between the teams. I feel right now they're coming back to the level that they were having pretty much mid to end of spring split, where they looked like the unbeatable team. Then obviously there's the playoffs, there's the best of fives where shit goes down and somehow they always manage to choke it. But it's not a surprise that we have Rogue at the top again. I personally predicted them to be first again at the during the regular season. So yeah, they're just going ahead. They're slapping everyone. They're just doing Rogue best of one stuff. Marang is picking up Vi and building Ice Gauntlet or whatever it's called, Frost Gauntlet. Sorry about the helicopter. I'm just gonna close my window. But yeah. But apart from Rogue, the two other teams have really rumbled the standings were Misfits and SK. Now, I don't seriously. I want to know what happened during this week break because the good teams faltered and the teams that were at the bottom of the standings suddenly became coordinated. They were playing properly. Uh, they're just doing everything right. And Misfits being one of them, obviously winning against Fnatic in what was. I mean, I'll go a bit more into details in the Fnatic segment, obviously. But the most impressive one was against G2. And G2 has been struggling pretty hard themselves, but the win against G2 was just like we lost against Misfits, but it was an absolute stomp against G2. Like it's crazy. It's crazy. It's I mean even if the sort of the objectives and the Drakes were close, in terms of basically the moment they got Baron, it was just over for G2. Even with the lead that they had, they got absolutely catapulted out. So I'll speak about G2 a bit later. That was impressive. Imagine Misfits at Worlds. I mean, we've seen Misfits at Worlds before where they took SKT to 5 games. I'm not going to say it's going to happen again because it's like a completely different roster, but I mean, I'd be interested to see them play against minor regions, to be honest, just to see. But I doubt they do top 4. Anyways, I doubt they do top 4. It's I think it's very weird that suddenly, because okay, maybe I'm mistaken, but I think Misfits are on a 4-game win streak right now, right? Cause wait, let me check. What's the previous games they played? Did they win against Mad Lions on week 3? They did. They won against Mad Lions week 3, and then obviously BDS. Yeah, so they are on a 4-game win streak. So Misfits is actually doing well prior to the break, but they looked even better this week. So have they found their groove? Are they just going to continue going forward? I mean, they're next week. Oh, sorry, I should say this week. They're facing Excel, and they're facing Vitality. That one's hard to predict actually because Excel has not been doing well, and I've put him in the not because they've been one of the teams that's gone 0-2 this week as well. It's just very unbecoming what happened to these top teams. I'm just going to quickly talk about SK so we can talk about these teams that completely sucked last week. SK, bottom of the barrel, fighting for 10th with BDS. They just finally worked together. They played super well this weekend. And not necessarily through, what was it? Not necessarily through Gilius, because usually when SK pops off, it's usually through Gilius, who's the one going completely berserk and jungle diffing. But that wasn't even the case. That wasn't even the case. Certus played an insane Sylas against G2. Gapped Caps out of all players. I think he beat him 1v1 as well, right? Like, what happened? Since when? Since when the Certus beat Caps on a 1v1? Seriously. So that was a surprise. And then when they faced Excel, which was the second game of the week, I believe. Yeah, so they faced G2 first, and then they faced Excel. People were like, "Oh well, Excel lost against Fiddlers again. Oh my god, Astralis. Surely they're gonna pick it up and go against SK. Nope. SK showing the same level, being just as good against Excel, and you know, transitioning, talking about the teams that kind of sucked and Excel first. You have to ask: is the Korean scrim buff finally worn off? Is it over for Excel? I don't think it's hard to tell, right? Because they're not. It's not like they're the only top team that struggled, but it's very weird for them to just have unstructured plays, to lack the aggression that's been their strength so far, and catching other teams off guard. Where what they do now, right, is usually when they get one pick, they catch someone on an off position, they try to go a bit further. It's not just, oh, we get the kill and then we go back to our side of the map. They actually push forward and see, was he alone? Is there maybe someone else we can catch out of position? And that's what's helped them snowball and get those wins and being one of the top teams. And it feels like this weekend in particular, they were not able to play their game. Basically, that's what it felt like. It felt like they were playing the opponent's game and they never managed to get their rhythm going. And G2 is another case. G2 is 0-4 streak right now. Now G2 was also one of the teams that was at the top of the standings. Now having a negative win rate at 4-5, with Caps getting diffed by Certus of all mid laners, and then losing what was. So I did call it a stomp because the end of the game was a bit of a stomp, but most of the game was actually pretty close against Misfits. But wait, actually, I need to check something. I need to check something on the goal difference between Misfits and G2, because what usually happens is that Misfits has become over the years a bit of a kryptonite for G2, where they managed to get the craziest comebacks. We remember the stuff with the Elder Drake, for instance, and Misfits did have a bit of a gold lead in the early game. But after a few misplayed team fights, G2 managed to bring it back, and it felt like classic G2. They're finally back in the groove. But if you go back to the team fight, you'll see how crazy close it was. I believe it's the 4th or 5th Drake where they fight. There's so many players with basically 1 HP. And G2 was ahead in terms of the kills. But in terms of the gold, like, there wasn't like a 7 or 8k gold difference, and what I believe helped G2 keep them alive was the Tarek pick. And the Tarek pick is a bit of a cheater pick because it really helps against bursty comps because they were playing against the Corki and the Zeri obviously, and um, what's her name again, Gwen. So I think it did help them sustain those fights, but Misfits actually, after a few team fights, managed to play around the Tarek ult, and instead were actually bursting down the players before the Tarek ult applied, or were just holding back all like the ultis, the big spells, and then were applying them once the Tarek ult wore off. So no, it was smart gameplay from Misfits, for sure, for sure. But yeah, very concerning for G2. I haven't watched the what do you call it, the Euphoria podcast where Yankos is. I know like one of the questions was like, do you think you're gonna make it to Worlds? Maybe with the fourth seed, it's gonna happen now. So Bo is taking over EOS solo queue. He might be a threat to us. I mean, we've already played Vitality, so that's done. We've already gotten slapped by Vitality, and it was Haru of all junglers that played. So, I mean, you know, it's I see a lot of people talking about Bo in solo queue. I mean, solo queue is one thing. How do you work within this team that Vitality is? You know, playoffs still exists. Is Vitality gonna make playoffs? We don't know. I mean, so far we're at the halfway point of the split. So there's 4 weeks. Sorry, there's 8 weeks. So fourth week we're in the middle. Vitality is in the top 6, but Astralis and G2 are 1 game away. Anything can happen. When the rankings are so tight, it's actually hard to tell who's going to be able to make playoffs. Who knows? Maybe SK continues to go crazy and they just win, and they're top 6, and they take a spot off of maybe Vitality and Misfits. Maybe G2 fixes their shit, and they're the one who goes forward. So, do we know if Bo is playing this week? Do we have that information? Because I know there's like visa issues and stuff like this, and so actually, you know what? Let me check. Oh, we're match of the week again. Jesus Christ. Let me check the Vitality Twitter if they're saying anything. Doesn't feel like they're saying anything. I saw there's like COVID again within their team, so I'll be playing at the office again. But yeah, no, it doesn't seem like Bo's gonna be playing for them yet. I mean, yeah, he's in Europe, but like the perfect timing would have been to make him play now, to be honest, because he gets a full second half of split to play and prep for, potentially making playoffs. Who knows? But we'll see. I think if Vitality really wants to consider a run in playoffs, he needs to enter, if not this week, at least next week. He needs at least roughly a best of fives worth of games under his belt. So that would mean he goes in next week. So that would be week 6, 7, 4 games, and Super Week there would be 7 games. I think that would be a fair amount for him to start synergy. It's not the best, but at least get a semblance of synergy with his team. But yeah. But I mean, they're positive win rate, so they're doing not too bad. They're tied with a lot of the top teams, and especially with Fnatic. And you know what? I'm just gonna make a straight transition to Fnatic because I think we need to talk about the disaster that happened. 0-2 week, dude. 0-2 week, guys. Now you can be a doomer and be like, this team is done. They're never gonna win LEC. They took too much holidays. They were chilling too much at the aqua park or whatever it's called. You know, or you can say, hey, they needed that 0-2 because their plays weren't necessarily the cleanest. Even though week 3 they played rather clean in general, but I don't know. Maybe the break kind of stopped the momentum that we had going into week 3. But actually, before I give my opinion, let's talk about the games. First game against. So actually, let's talk about it in general. As we're going into week 4, I believe that pretty much everyone within the Fnatic community, at least a big majority, thought it was a rather accessible, I'm not going to say easy, but accessible 2-0 week, right? Misfits has been struggling, even though they had 2 wins. Overall, they're still bottom of the barrel. Vitality, Haru isn't necessarily being the answer for Selfmade's replacement, being much more of a KDA jungler than anything, and and so it's like, those should be teams we are able to win against. Now, we did lose both of these games, but let's look at them in details. The Misfits game first. Now, the Misfits game started horribly. Razork being either disrespectful or too confident on his Viego, which is a good pick for him. Getting caught twice. First at enemy Raptors and getting collapsed on, and then on his own blue instead of just letting it go and try to be elsewhere. Has a bit of an ego issue. It's like, I'm not going to lose my blue to you. Tries to fight for it, dies. So it's like, what the hell is going on? Despite all of that, because our team is farming well and we're the laners are playing properly, respectively, we're still ahead in gold. We start to get objectives. We start to win team fights. And then, well, not more like team fights, more like small skirmishes. We managed to get kills. But actually, when it comes to team fights and we go for drakes and stuff like this, so many issues. Again, disrespecting enemy comp, who has a lot of displacement with the Gnar ults and the Wombo combo. Bad positioning, especially. Of all people, I didn't expect Upset. Just hugging the wall and moving forward instead of staying on the backline with Caitlyn of all champions just to finish off one opponent. Not worth. Not worth. You were the one who's supposed to deal damage on the backline. So I didn't understand. I was quite confused by Upset's choice here. Fnatic subreddit went on a rant after. I mean, every year there's going to be a scapegoat for the Fnatic community for bad performances. This year it's Razork for a simple reason that he's pretty much the one without, I was going to say trophies or accomplishments, but that's also the case for Upset. But Upset has been in the league for so long and has shown himself to be one of the top ADCs that maybe it doesn't feel like he belongs to that. But you have Wunder, you have Huma, you have Hylissang, all people that have won LEC/EU LCS trophies, and you have Razork. So it's like, oh, by process of elimination, Razork is the weaker one here. easy to identify jungle misplays. Well, it's the solo queue syndrome. That's what it is. Who do laners blame first when they lose their lane? They blame the jungler. So I think it's a bit of all of that. It's a bit of status. It's a bit of finding the one scapegoat on who we can blame everything. It's like super coin flip. Week 3, Razork has insane performances, completely jungle gaps Yankos, by the way. When a lot of people are like, oh, Razork isn't a smart jungler, he's just a mechanical guy. On the first minutes of the game, completely changes his pathing to get an early gank onto Broken Blade and allow Wunder to have a free lane. Yeah, but ganking a tank, a top laner in the first place is like, what the hell? When usually, historically, our junglers have always focused mid or bot lane, and top lane has always been an island. And so Wunder gets a free game because he gets his Bami Cinders, and he's like, you cannot kill me now. I can just push lane, and I cannot be bursted down by any ganks. So he's chilling. And yeah, so Razork just gets blamed for everything. With that said, Razork this weekend completely played like a maniac, not in a good sense, where he was positioning too aggressively, what felt like disrespecting the opponent and their champion and their level in the game. But the whole team made mistakes, like I mentioned. Upset, going too far forward when he has a champion that has one of the biggest range in game with Caitlyn. And we disrespected the Misfits comp. And that's what happened in the end. We just took a fat loss. Even though we were ahead in gold, by the way. Despite Razork's bad early game, we were early in gold and we were taking the lead onto the game. So the main issue here isn't really Razork's bad performance. That's part of the whole problem. Like that's one element. The bigger picture here is when we managed to get back into the game and take the lead, we were not able to control that lead. We played solo queue. It was a clash team I was playing. The the macro was off compared to the previous week of game. The what do you call it? The synergy was off. Look at Upset getting caught on his Baron buff recall and having to use flash and everything, which completely fucks the rest of the cycle of getting Drake and everything, and they get chased in the bot lane, and I think that pretty much seals the game. Or no, I think there's another team fight towards Baron. Anyways, I mean, it didn't help in the end, but it was still a team issue with not applying the macro properly as we've done in week 3. So that was the Misfits game. The Vitality game. Now, out of nowhere, Alfari decides to play like a god. Granted, he had a easier matchup. Now, I think this weekend, if I'm going to comment over the drafts, I don't think our drafts were bad. What I will say, though, I think our drafts are a bit outdated. When you look at what's been played in the league and the champions we've played, I feel like it's not necessarily a patch behind, but we are like a meta, that's the word, meta behind. I haven't seen us play any Lissandra, and it's not just Nuke Dog playing Lissandra, by the way. I haven't seen us play some Lissandra. We are sticking Razork on Viego and Volibear when there's other options. And I'm sure you can play these other options, but I'm guessing they're just like, you just go on Viego duty. I don't know what maybe they've said in the latest voice comms. I haven't listened to them yet. But yeah, and then we trap ourselves by picking Kale into Gangplank. Now, last time it worked was against, was it Astralis? I believe. But it worked because the enemy jungler completely ignored top lane. Vitality played super well, where they just uh, they prevented Wunder to play the game and to get farm and levels. And that's how you're supposed to play when you have a early favorable matchup into the kill. It's just shove the barrels in her head, point a gun, and shoot her down. And Wunder was super behind early. Now he managed to get back. I mean, props to Wunder. He was like 2 levels behind at one point, and he managed to get back in farm and in levels. And he managed to get level 16 in the end. So he did super well mid to late game. But the early game, I'm surprised that there was no clear plan to say for the 6 to 7 minutes we have to put a security field around Wunder. Because it was almost certain that if we went into this matchup again, that a team wouldn't make the same mistake that, again, I believe it was Astralis, to just ignore the top lane. So Alfari gets super ahead, does whatever he wants, becomes a threat on the side lanes. And we get into like scrappy fights, left, right, and center. And a bit like the Misfits game, we managed to get a lead. Now, the lead was a bit smaller, I believe, this time. I'd have to check it again. But we still managed to get a lead. We managed to catch them by them being greedy on the turret. And Humanoid is farming super well on his Zoe. The issue is, again, we weren't able to do anything with that lead and the mistakes we were punishing them with. Biggest problem was Humanoid, despite all the lead that he had in the world, wasn't able to really impact the game. Now, I don't know if it's his fault or the lack of help from his team, but there is a lot of cues that he was missing. And I'm sorry, but if you're going to be so far ahead, you got to hit your cues, man. You got to hit your cues, man. You have to destroy the backline by just looking at them. And yeah, I believe around the 20th minute, we're just chasing for a comeback. And there's that one fight around bot side jungle, red side, where they completely annihilate us. And that was game. They get Baron, and we close shop. And, you know, beyond obviously the loss, that's disappointing. I think it's the level of play that we showed in terms of mechanics, macro, disrespecting the opponent. That really annoyed me personally. I don't know about you guys. Maybe you can, for those in the chat or watching on YouTube, you can tell me what really disappointed you the most this weekend. But for me, it was more the way we played, more than the score itself. Because losses happen. In the best of one, they can happen. I don't mind. But it's just the level of play that we show after the break. You ask yourself so many questions. You're like, what happened during the break? Why aren't we able to keep the momentum from week 3, where we were starting to look super clean, and now it looks like we're back to week 1, basically. How well are we gonna fix these mistakes, and how strong are these mistakes on our gameplay going into next week? Because next week, who are we facing? Rogue, the top team right now, and Excel. Now XL, granted, they also went 0-2. They can very well fix their mistakes and come back to the level they were. So I'm hoping that we're not, again, disrespecting teams because they're doing poorly, like Excel. And that against Rogue, we just don't get rolled over and destroyed in 25 minutes. Now, what I would like to see is return of our macro, less aggressive positioning, whether it be from Razork or other players, to actually be able to manage team fights much better. And I would say updating our drafts to the current meta. Again, I don't think our drafts were bad this weekend. I just think they were a bit outdated. And I'm sure we can bring in a bit more, I should say, a wider pool of champions going into next week. So yeah, you guys let me know in Twitch chat, YouTube, what you thought about Fnatic's performance, how sad you were, how frustrated you were. This is the safe space for you guys to share it all, to cry together. But let's hope for a better week and say that this week was a 0-2. It's the slap in the face. We move forward. It was just an off week, and next week we smash it. Because sorry, the objective stays the same. We need to win the LEC with this roster. So we need to be able to show that we're capable of winning it, and this starts on the second half of summer split. So yeah, let's just get on with our predictions, shall we? I'm inching closer to you guys after some. Basically, we didn't score a lot of points. I think I scored 4 points out of 10, and you guys 3. So yeah, we got smashed by whatever happened this last weekend. But this week, we have a bit of more of a bit of flexibility in you guys' pick. One that surprised me is that you guys went for Misfits. Now, I don't know if it's recency bias. It's probably recency bias. I still went with XL. I think they're going to fix their shit going forward. But who knows? It could be that Misfits keeps on going with their momentum and they smash it. So I might lose that one. The other one, Rogue versus Fnatic. I know, call me an unbeliever. I just think Rogue is playing too well right now. And I'm cautious on how well we're going to play next week. You guys voted Fnatic. You guys are the loyal fans. You're the true fans. I bow in front of you, and if you guys are right, hey, it's a win for you guys. It's a win for me because I'll have a good weekend. So you know. Second day, pretty much the same. You guys voted for Vitality against Misfits. Now you vote for Misfits against Excel. We vote Vitality against Misfits. Sometimes this community doesn't make sense. It's probably because not enough of you are voting. Now I'm seeing a trend which is very weird, is that you don't understand that it's the voting on the Twitter is the thread. So you actually have to unfold the thread to see all the games, so you can vote for each one of them. So not just vote on the first and the last one that appear. Because the first and last one are the ones with most votes, and the one in between, they barely get like 5 votes. Sometimes the voting is on an even number, so I have to flip it to see which pick I choose for you guys, because I have to choose for you guys. So I need more people voting, so I don't have to make those difficult decisions and potentially make you lose a game. So yeah, a difficult week for G2 as well. They're facing Rogue. They're not looking good this week. Fnatic Excel, Prage. How can you vote? I'm happy you asked. Usually on the Sunday or Monday on my Twitter, I don't know if you use Twitter, at IFB Podcast at the bottom right corner of your screen. That's the Twitter of the show. I post a thread of tweets with the games of the upcoming week. So you just have to pick, enter your vote, and your vote goes into the community vote. And we have this little 1v1 face to face. So you guys are leading right now by 1 point, but it might change this weekend. Who knows? So if you want to participate, if you want to vote, you can follow me on IFB so you get notified. It comes on your timeline. You can vote straight away as soon as it's posted. I try to do it as soon as possible, usually on the Sunday or Monday. Sometimes I completely forget, I get lazy, and I post it Tuesday or Wednesday. But in any case, it's posted before the show, so you guys can vote. I can take your votes in, and I can show what the community has predicted. So yeah, thank you for asking the question. Same for you guys who will be watching the VOD on YouTube. Get to it. Get to voting. If you don't have Twitter, it's fine. But everyone uses Twitter. If you watch eSport, you probably use Twitter, unless if you're in a country that bans it. But yeah. Anything else to be added? Probably not. I guess we'll call it a day on this one, on the show. I'm just gonna thank you guys for tuning in. For people who've chatted with me in the Twitch chat, again, don't hesitate to follow my account, personal account. This way, the Mad Scott account, where I talk about a lot of esports stuff and music as well. It's my personal account, and the IFB podcast, where I share all the news about the show. I comment on the Fnatic games on the day. I share the drafts, my opinion, and obviously, as I mentioned, the community predictions. There we go. I'll catch you guys next week. I should be there next week. I will be there next week for week 5 recap. Hoping to have a bit more of a positive one. Thanks again for tuning in. Try to survive the heat wave. I don't know how bad it's been on your side. Make sure to drink a lot of water. I'll see you next time. Always Fnatic, guys. Bye.